going to be recording all of this for two reasons. Some of you might struggle to actually uh, stay logged on. You might get logged off. You might be struggling to share your computer with somebody else in the household or what have you. So, but I think the other benefit of me recording it is that if I go too fast at any moment, you can then play the video back in your own time. So you can just relax a bit if you feel you're missing one or two bits during the lesson. Now, the video will upload on Teams, okay, but I know Teams has been very slow at the moment. So what I'm also doing, I am uploading all the videos onto YouTube as well. And I'll make sure I let you know the link through to where we're filing these on YouTube. But basically, if you just Google Maths by Mr. Withers and just go onto the home page, you will see that the top set of playlists is all the remote learning. And obviously, you just look in the first form remote learning folder. Okay, so today's lesson. Let me just get the need to get the board up. Because at the moment I'm just right. Okay, so as you will remember, at the end of last term, because we got through the syllabus quite quickly, we had a few revision lessons. Now, probably good news, I would say, from your point of view. Doesn't seem much point us having a test now, because really it's very hard for us to be having test conditions, isn't it, with you guys all at home. So it was all worthwhile revision, and obviously with a bit of luck, touch wood, we'll be back at school quite soon, so we will be having end of term tests and what have you. So none of that revision was a waste of time, but there's not going to be a test now. We will save any testing until we're all back, okay? So we had two topics remaining, which were revision topics, two revision topics remaining, but we've done those very recently, so I don't see the need for us to revise those now. I think what I'd rather we did is just start working through the topics that we need to really cover this Trinity term, this summer term, just so we're keeping up to date with as if we've been in school. Because I'd like you guys to be reassured, though, although these lessons might not be quite as sort of efficient as if we were at school, I promise you we will be covering the same material. Now, a couple of things. You've probably picked up from a letter that went home from Mr. Smith, sort of some revisions on our thoughts about how long you should be working on these lessons, because we do appreciate it takes a lot of time to upload bits of work and what have you. So I think the general idea is that each time we have a lesson, we'll have a 5 or 10 minute chat at the beginning of the lesson where I just sort of set the topic up. The video will then stop, and then you will then be working on a worksheet. And I think the idea that you'd be spending about 25 minutes is sort of what we want you to do. That's sort of the expected bit is about right. Obviously, if you choose to do a bit more, then that's completely up to you, okay? But really, watch the video or attend the live lesson, and then about 25 minutes working on whatever work I set, okay? So if you look at the scheme of work that's at the top here, for what we need to do this term. The first bit was revising mean, median, mode and range for a simple set of data. Now, if you remember, we did that just before we had the setting test. So I'm going to do this quite quickly, because what I think I would rather we did, we revised these bits and pieces by doing 20.2, where we're finding the missing value, okay? So we're just going to do a really quick revision of averages. So if you remember, there are 3 types of average: the mean, the median, and the mode. So the mean is the meanest one to work out. It's the hardest one to work out, but it's the one we're most familiar with. It's the one where you go and add up all the numbers, and then you divide by the number of numbers. Okay, so that's the mean. Now the median is the middle number once you put the list of numbers in order. And the mode is the number that's in the list most often. It's the most common number. So again, I don't want us to spend time doing these now, because you've done lots of these before. So let's just really quickly talk you through this. And then obviously, if you have forgotten this, or you've never really understood it, when you play the video back, you can just go through this a bit more carefully, okay? So if we've got these 5 numbers here, to work out the mean, I'm just simply going to add up these 5 numbers and then divide by 5, because there are 5 numbers there. So adding up these numbers, I get 20. 20 divided by 5, being the number of numbers, gives me a mean average of 4. Now the median, remember what you must do first of all is put them in order. Don't just go and say the middle number is 8, all right? It's not. You've got to put them in order. So once I've put these 5 numbers in order, you can see that the median number, the middle number is 3. And the mode, which number occurs most often? Well, 3 is the mode because it occurs twice, whereas everything else only occurs once. Okay, a couple of other bits and pieces to bear in mind. The mean doesn't have to be a whole number. It's absolutely fine if it becomes a decimal. Okay, now with the median is easy peasy when you've got an odd number of numbers because there's only one in the middle. If we'd had, say, 6 numbers in the list, then there's really 2 middle numbers, and you just work out the midpoint between those 2 numbers. So you work out the mean average of those 2 numbers. So say the 2 middle numbers, for example, have been 2 and 4, then actually the median would be 3, because it's halfway between these 2 numbers. And one other thing to remember with the mode, it's possible to have more than one mode. So if you had 3 cropping up twice and you had 4 cropping up twice, you just say the mode is both 3 and 4. Okay, so you don't go and sort of work out the mean average of the 2. You just say, right, we've got a couple of modes, or we could have 3 modes or whatever. So that's a quick recap of mean, median, and mode. And then the other thing that we looked at was the range. Now the range isn't one of the averages, it's a measure of spread. Okay, it shows how consistent something is. And to work out the range, you do the biggest number, take away the smallest number. And if you remember, we did this sort of example with a couple of batsmen. So say you've got a batsman who scored, and for his 4 innings he scored, or she scored 10, then 90, then 90, then 10. Okay, and another batsman who scored 45 and 55 and 45 and 55. You'll find if you work out the mean average for both these batsmen, you get exactly 50. Okay, so they're both really good batsmen. Okay, and the mean is the way to really test the quality of a batsman. Batsmen always sort of look after their average. You know, if you've got an average of sort of high 40s, 50s, you're a very good batsman. Now, however, the range is interesting. So whilst they've both got a mean of 50, the range for batsman number 1, biggest takeaway, smallest, is 80. But the range for batsman number 2, biggest takeaway, smallest, 55, takeaway 45 is 10. So the range for batsman number 1 is huge, it's 80, but batsman number 2 is 10. Now that's just a measure of consistency. Batsman number 2 is much more consistent. He always scores a good solid middle score, so sort of like a Joe Root type character if you follow your cricket. Somebody who's very reliable, really solid batsman, whereas the batsman number 1 would be somebody more like sort of Jason Roy at the top of the order of the 2020 team, okay? Someone who on his day is brilliant, but quite often he'll get out quite cheaply. So you can't really use the range to say who's better or not, but it's just showing you the type of batsman they are. It's the measure of consistency. So if you were going to choose which of these batsmen to have in your team, well, you probably want to have a mixture of both. You want to have some who some days they're good, some days they're not so good, but then you also want to have some who are sort of more consistent, so a mixture of the two. So that's a quick revision of mean, median, mode and range. And what the worksheet that I've set today is going to be about, you've just got to think about it a bit more. You're given the mean, the median, and the mode, and you've got to work out the missing number, okay? So here we've got 5 numbers, but one of them we don't know, calling it X. And what we're being told is that the mode is 5. Now, I think these mode ones are probably the easiest one, because what we're saying is, what must X be so that the mode is 5? What must X be so the number that's there most often is 5? Well, clearly X needs to be 5, okay? If X is 5, then 5 is the mode because 5 crops up twice, whereas 6, 3 and 8 only crop up once. So with the worksheet we're going to be moving on to, you're going to have some where you've got to work out the mode. Now, what about when they tell you the mean is 6? Now, how do you work out the mean? You add up all the numbers and divide by the number of numbers. Okay. Now we've got 5 numbers here. Now, when we add them all up and we divide by 5, we get 6. So what must the total be when we add them all up? What divided by 5 gives us 6? Well, it's 30, because 30 divided by 5 gives us 6. So these 5 numbers together must add up to 30. Okay, so just check you're okay with that. We've got 5 numbers here, one of which we don't know. The mean is 6. So when we add them all up, all 5 of these up, and we divide by 5, we get 6. So what number, when we divide it by 5, gives us 6? Well, that is 30. So these must add up to 30. Now, that's what all 5 of them add up to. So to work out what x is, it's not too bad now. If you add up the 4 that we've got, we get 22. The total number altogether has got to be 30. So x must be 30, take away 22, which is 8. So I think those are okay once you've practiced a few. You've just got to remember that you've got to work out what the total is as a starting point when you're working out the mean. So we've covered the mode, we've covered the mean, and then the final one is the median. Now this is quite tricky, okay? Now take this example here. We've got 6 numbers here, and we're saying that the median is 6.5. Now remember what we were saying when you've got an even number of numbers, like we've got here, we've got 6 numbers. The median is what you get when you take the midpoint of the middle 2 numbers. So if we go and put these in order, okay, 3, 5, 6, 8, and 8, we need the median of the 2 numbers to be 6.5. So the middle 2 numbers must be 6 and 7, so that when we work out the midpoint of these 2 numbers, we get 6.5. So our missing number must be 7. So let's just go over that again. I've gone and put these numbers in order, 3, 5, 6, 8, and 8. That's the bit in blue. I've then said, right, my middle 2 numbers have got to give me a midpoint of 6.5. So there must be a 7 next to that 6 in order that my middle 2 numbers halfway between the 2 is 6.5. Now they're quite tricky, so don't overly worry if you struggle with those a little bit. So that's what we're going to be looking at. Now what I want to introduce you to now is a little amendment to how things work on Teams. Now lots of you were getting excellent at sending me in your work last term, and you were uploading it yourself onto Class Notebook. Okay, you were going into Teams and you were getting it onto the notebook bit. Now we found a way through assignments that the work's already going to be there for you. Okay, now this isn't actually your class, this is my second form class, but you will find now if you go into Teams and you go onto your notebook, if you look in homework, you will find that there's already a page there called 20.1 Averages Revision. And that's going to be what you'll be doing for your piece of work for me today, please. So you go and click on that. When you go and click on that, you will see that I have put a little box underneath it in yellow. And again, some of you can do this already, some of you won't be familiar. If you go and click on that box, and you must click on that box, you will find that these file and these picture options at the top then will work. Now, if you've done the work and you're just taking pictures of it with your camera, you'll go down the picture option. But if you're sort of scanning your work and uploading it back to me, you're going to be going down the file option. Now, if you go down the file option, please make sure that you then choose the insert file printout option, because that will then allow me to access your work and mark it. Now, the great thing is with me having been able to now upload this work, it's already going to be there for you. But also it's going to be a lot easier for me to actually give you a proper mark and keep a record of all your marks, please. Okay. Now, the worksheet that I've done for you today is simply this, and you will see that this is available on Show My Homework. If if you go on to show my homework, I've included this as something for you to download on a Word document. Okay. Now, if you're not able to access that, you can of course just freeze this video and just do the questions off the screen, or of course you can just go back to Teams and just look at that page here where I've uploaded it to. So it will just be here. Okay. So what I want you to do, please, and you only have to spend 25 minutes on that, just see how many of these you can work out. And you can see it's just done from Strictly Come Dancing. Okay. So what we're saying here is, let's just take, for example, this one down here. We're being told that the mode is 8. So what must Bruno's score have been? Well, for the mode to be 8, Bruno must have given an 8, because then there's a couple of 8s. So we've got a few here, so just see if you can try and work out as many of these as you can. Okay, so just to recap, the lesson's going to finish in a second. I think that's the last page. I think I've just got the answers after that, yes, which I don't want you to see yet. So, so the lesson's going to finish in a minute. Give it your best shot to spend 20-25 minutes having a go at some of those. And then what I'm really keen that we try and get used to the idea of uploading it. Now, I know the uploading of it is going to be quite tricky, and you might need to get your parents involved to help you. Maybe if they're not there with you now, you can just get them to watch this video back with you, because I think half the battle today is us starting to get used to how, or continue getting used to how Teams working. All right. So that's it from me. So I'm just going to go and stop the recording. Stop recording. And then I'm now going to